Well, well, look what we've got here. A little stray who thinks she can stroll wherever she pleases. Officer Rick Branson's smirk widened as he stepped from his cruiser, his K9 snarling at his side. The quiet Glenvale Street shimmered in late sunlight as 7-year-old Nyla Ellison froze, confusion locking her in place. To Branson, she wasn't a child, just another body to put in its place. But as the dog lunged and her screams tore through the calm, fate turned on him. A mile away, Maya Ellison, Delta Force veteran, was already running home, every step a soldier's promise of reckoning. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the grassy strip behind the old warehouse. Nyla's pink backpack caught the golden light as she walked her familiar path home, the drainage creek gurgling softly beside her. Her small fingers played with the toy keychain dangling from her backpack zipper, a little plastic bird that reminded her of the cardinals she often spotted on this route. "Hello, Mr. Cardinal," she whispered to her keychain, swinging it gently. "Did you see any real birds today?" The simple pleasure of her after-school ritual made her smile, her sneakers crunching softly on the well-worn path. Up ahead on her porch, Mrs. Patel balanced on a step stool, reaching up to adjust a small black device above her door. Her gray hair was neatly pulled back, and her reading glasses hung from a chain around her neck. She turned and spotted Nyla, her kind face lighting up with a warm smile. "Careful up there, Mrs. Patel," Nyla called out, waving enthusiastically. "Just installing my new doorbell camera, dear," Mrs. Patel responded, climbing down carefully. "Now I can see who's at my door before I open it. Isn't technology wonderful?" The quiet afternoon shifted when the low rumble of an engine approached. A white police cruiser crept along the street, moving at a crawl. Through the windshield, Officer Rick Branson's stern face scanned the area, his jaw set in a hard line. Behind the wheel, Officer Kyle Drummond's shoulders were tense, his eyes darting between his partner and the road. Branson grabbed the radio mic. "Dispatch, Unit 47. We've got a juvenile trespasser on private industrial property." His voice carried an edge that made Nyla stop in her tracks. "But I walk here every day," Nyla said, her voice small but clear. She clutched her backpack straps tighter. "This is public land. My mom showed me on a map." Branson's car door swung open with a heavy creak. His boots hit the ground with deliberate force as he emerged, one hand resting on his belt. In the back of the cruiser, Thor, his K9 partner, stood at attention, muscular and alert. "This is private property, young lady," Branson declared, his tone sharp. "You're trespassing on industrial land." Drummond stepped out more slowly, his younger face showing uncertainty. "Hey, Rick, maybe we should just—" He glanced at Nyla's small frame and pink backpack. "She's just a kid walking home." "You want to question my judgment, Drummond?" Branson snapped, already moving to the rear door. Thor's eager pants were audible as Branson opened it, keeping a firm grip on the leash. The German shepherd's powerful presence made Nyla take a step back. Her heart began to race as Thor's focused gaze fixed on her. The toy cardinal keychain slipped from her trembling fingers, landing in the grass. "Please," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I just want to go home." "Control the situation," Branson muttered, letting Thor move forward, the leash extending. The dog's training kicked in, responding to his handler's tension. "Rick, take it easy," Drummond pleaded, his voice cracking. "This isn't necessary. She's just a kid." Mrs. Patel gripped her porch railing, her new doorbell camera's tiny light blinking steadily. "Officers, what are you doing?" "She walks this way every day." Nyla backed away from Thor's advancing form. Her foot caught on a rock, and she stumbled backward, landing hard. Her scream pierced the air, high and terrified. "Thor! Forward!" Branson's command cut through the chaos. The German shepherd launched forward, powerful muscles propelling him toward the fallen child. In seconds, Thor was on her. Neela's screams intensified as the dog's teeth caught her sleeve, ripping the fabric. Her small body curled into a ball, protecting her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Stop resisting!" Branson shouted, his face flushed with anger. "Stop moving!" Drummond lurched forward, reaching for Thor's leash. "Jesus Christ, Rick! Stop this! Get that dog off her!" Mrs. Patel's voice carried from her porch, shaking with fury and fear. Her trembling fingers already had her phone out, dialing frantically. The sound of ripping fabric mixed with Neela's sobs. Her pink backpack lay in the dirt, the strap torn, contents scattered across the path she had walked so many times before. Mrs. Patel's phone connected. On the other end, Maya Ellison's screen lit up with an incoming video call. "Mrs. Patel's voice came through, urgent and breaking. "Your daughter. Police. Dog. Come now!" The golden afternoon light that had made everything seem so peaceful just moments before now cast harsh shadows across the scene. A terrified child on the ground, a dog's teeth in her sleeve, two officers in stark contrast, one aggressive, one hesitant, and an elderly woman's steady hand holding a phone, her new doorbell camera recording every second of the unfolding nightmare. Maya burst through her front door, her ER scrubs still on, and running shoes already laced. The familiar weight of her hospital ID badge bounced against her chest as she sprinted down the street. Her breathing remained controlled, measured, the same rhythm she'd maintained through countless military drills. Each exhale carried her forward as the sound of aggressive barking grew louder. The golden afternoon light that had seemed so peaceful minutes ago now cast an eerie glow across the neighborhood. Maya's feet pounded against the pavement, muscle memory from years of training taking over. She could hear Nyla's cries getting closer, mixing with the sharp barks of the police dog. Rounding the corner onto the utility easement path, Maya took in the scene in fragments, just as she'd been trained. Her daughter on the ground. Pink backpack torn. German shepherd hovering. Two officers, one aggressive, one hesitant. Mrs. Patel on her porch, phone still recording. Multiple neighbors emerging from their homes, cell phones raised. Thor's teeth were inches from Nyla's face, saliva dripping from his jaws as he growled. The child lay frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks, her small hands covering her head. Officer Branson took a step forward, his face twisted with authority. "I'm finishing the control procedure," he announced, pulling the leash taut. "The subject needs to comply." Maya's training clicked into place like a key turning in a lock. Her voice cut through the chaos, precise and commanding. 3 sharp commands in German, words she'd learned during joint operations with military K9 units. "Halt! Platz! Bleib!" Thor's reaction was immediate. His ears flattened against his skull as he dropped to his belly, releasing Nyla's sleeve. A confused whine escaped his throat as his training overrode Branson's authority. Branson's face drained of color. His grip on the leash went slack as he stared at Maya, then at his now submissive dog. "What the hell did you just—" "You move that leash again, officer," Maya said, her voice carrying the quiet menace of someone who knew exactly how much damage they could do. "And you'll regret it." She stepped between Thor and Nyla, her movements fluid and controlled. Behind her, Officer Drummond fumbled for his radio, fingers shaking as he keyed the mic. "Dispatch, we need backup at—" "Radio all you want," Maya cut him off, gesturing to Mrs. Patel's porch. "It's all on camera now." Her eyes swept the growing crowd of neighbors, their phones steadily recording every moment. The crunch of tires on pavement announced another arrival. Sergeant Dana Chu's patrol car pulled up, lights off, but with purpose. She stepped out, taking in the scene with sharp eyes. Recognition flickered across her face as she spotted Maya. Memories of a joint tactical course years ago surfacing. "Body cams on now," Chu ordered, her voice carrying the full weight of her rank. Branson's hand moved to his chest, hesitating. His face had shifted from shock to something darker, more defensive. "I said body cams on, Officer Branson," Chu repeated, louder this time. The edge in her voice left no room for debate. Maya knelt beside Nyla, keeping her movements slow and steady. "Baby, I'm here," she murmured, gentle fingers checking for injuries. The sleeve of Nyla's shirt was torn, revealing angry red marks where Thor's teeth had caught fabric instead of flesh. "Does anything hurt? Tell me where." Nyla launched herself into her mother's arms, sobbing. "I just wanted to go home," she choked out. "I always walk this way." "I know, baby. I know." Maya held her daughter close with one arm while raising her voice to address Drummond. "Call EMS. Now. My daughter needs medical attention." Her tone made it clear this wasn't a request. Thor had crept closer, still lying low, his eyes moving between Maya and Branson as if trying to sort out the chain of command. He settled by Maya's leg, tail low, clearly responding to her dominant presence. Branson stood rigid, his face pale with anger and embarrassment. His hand kept twitching toward the leash, but Maya's warning hung in the air between them. The crowd of neighbors had grown, their phones still recording, their murmurs growing louder with each passing moment. Sergeant Chu moved closer, positioning herself strategically between Branson and the Ellisons. She looked at Maya, her voice dropping so only they could hear. "I remember you." Maya met her gaze steadily, one hand still stroking Nyla's hair. "Then you know I don't bluff." The wail of approaching sirens filled the air as neighbors continued to gather. The late afternoon sun caught the tears on Nyla's cheeks, the torn fabric of her sleeve, the steady red recording lights of dozens of phones, and the uncertain shifting of a police dog caught between two authorities. The ambulance's red and white lights painted streaks across Maya's face as she sat beside the gurney, holding Nyla's small hand. Her daughter's fingers trembled in hers, still shaking from the encounter. Through the ambulance windows, the familiar streets of Glenvale blurred past, transformed by emergency lights into something alien and threatening. "Mama?" Nyla's voice was barely a whisper. "Why did they let the dog hurt me?" Maya's throat tightened. She squeezed Nyla's hand gently, choosing her words with care. "Some people make wrong choices, baby. But we're going to make sure they can't do this to anyone else." The EMT checked Nyla's vital signs again, her movements efficient but gentle. "Blood pressure's good," she noted, offering a reassuring smile. "We're almost there." At the ER, Maya's colleagues sprang into action. Dr. Wilson, who usually shared coffee with Maya during breaks, now examined Nyla with professional detachment. Nurse Rodriguez, Maya's regular shift partner, carefully photographed each mark on Nyla's arms and legs. "Hold still, sweetheart," Rodriguez murmured, documenting a particularly angry red welt where Thor's teeth had caught Nyla's sleeve. "You're being so brave." Maya watched the process with both a nurse's clinical eye and a mother's aching heart. She knew the importance of proper documentation, evidence that couldn't be disputed or explained away. The torn pink backpack sat in a clear evidence bag, its ripped fabric a silent testimony to the day's events. Sergeant Chu appeared in the doorway, her presence both professional and apologetic. She gestured for Maya to step outside while Rodriguez continued the examination. "I'll be right back, baby," Maya promised, kissing Nyla's forehead. "Nurse Rodriguez is going to take good care of you." In the hallway, Chu's usual stern expression had softened slightly. She pulled out a business card and wrote a number on the back. "My personal cell," she explained, handing it to Maya. "I'm filing the incident report exactly as it happened. No sugarcoating." "Thank you," Maya said, pocketing the card. "But we both know how these reports can disappear." "Not this time," Chu assured her. "Too many witnesses. Too many cameras." Their conversation was interrupted by heavy footsteps. Officer Drummond approached, clutching an official statement form. His face was flushed, his manner uncertain. "Officer Branson's preliminary report," he announced, avoiding Maya's eyes as he handed the paper to Chu. Maya read over Chu's shoulder, her jaw tightening with each word. The report described Nyla as aggressive and non-compliant, claiming she had charged toward the K-9 unit. "That's a lie." Maya's voice was deadly quiet. "My 7-year-old daughter charged a German Shepherd." "You were there, Officer Drummond. You saw what really happened." Drummond shifted uncomfortably. I just brought the paperwork." Maya pulled out her phone, fingers steady despite her anger. She called Pastor Greer, letting out a breath when his warm voice answered. "Lionel, it's Maya. Something's happened to Nyla." She explained the situation briefly, her voice controlled but tight with emotion. "I'm on my way," Pastor Greer replied without hesitation. "Stay strong, child. We'll handle this right." 20 minutes later, Pastor Greer's tall figure appeared in the hospital corridor. His presence seemed to fill the space with calm authority. He hugged Maya briefly, then studied the report with grave attention. "They're trying to justify excessive force," he observed, his deep voice carrying decades of wisdom. "But remember what I always say. Stay precise, not loud. The truth will speak louder than rage." Maya nodded, drawing strength from his steady presence. "I know. But when I read their lies—" "Channel that anger into action," Greer advised. "Document everything. Build your case, brick by brick." Nurse Rodriguez emerged with a tablet, her face troubled. "Maya, you should see this." She pulled up a video file, the body cam footage Chu had transferred to hospital records. "Watch the timestamp." Maya leaned in, frowning. The video started a full minute after Branson and Drummond had arrived at the scene. The crucial initial interaction was missing. Chu appeared behind them, her expression darkening as she watched. "That's impossible. It was recording. I checked it myself when I arrived." "The first minute?" Maya's voice was sharp. "Just happens to be missing?" "I'll look into it," Chu promised, her lips pressed into a thin line. Later, as evening settled over the hospital, Maya sat beside Nyla's bed. Her daughter had finally fallen asleep, her face peaceful despite the bandages on her arms. The pink backpack sat in its evidence bag nearby, its torn fabric a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. Maya leaned close to Nyla's ear, whispering fiercely, "You did nothing wrong, baby. Nothing." Her phone buzzed, a message from Mrs. Patel. Maya opened it to find a video file attachment. The preview image showed crystal-clear 4K footage from the doorbell camera, capturing the entire incident from the moment Branson's cruiser had first appeared. Maya stared at the phone, her hand finding Nyla's again. In the quiet hospital room, surrounded by the soft beeping of monitors and the distant sounds of the ER, she felt the weight of what lay ahead. But she also felt something else, the certainty that truth, captured in high definition, would not be so easily erased. Morning sunlight filtered through the hospital blinds, casting thin stripes across Maya's laptop screen. She'd barely slept, spending most of the night watching over Nyla while reviewing Mrs. Patel's doorbell camera footage frame by frame. The 4K video was crystal clear, leaving no room for interpretation. On screen, Nyla walked calmly along the grassy strip, her pink backpack bouncing with each step. The police cruiser rolled into view, and Branson's aggressive stance was immediately apparent. The audio picked up every word. Nyla's polite confusion, Branson's escalating commands, Drummond's hesitant warning. Then came Thor's attack, unprovoked and brutal. Maya's hands clenched as she watched it again. The timestamp in the corner matched perfectly with the dispatch logs Chu had shown her. There would be no claiming this was edited or altered. She opened her email and attached the video file, addressing it to Ava Mercado. Maya had met the civil rights attorney several times in the ER, usually when Ava was representing victims of excessive force. The lawyer's reputation for taking down corrupt officers preceded her. Ava, Maya typed, "My daughter Nyla was attacked by a police K-9 yesterday. I have clear video evidence. Need your help." She added her phone number and pressed send. Her phone rang less than 5 minutes later. "Maya?" Ava's voice was sharp, focused. "I just watched the footage. I'm taking your case. Where are you now?" "Children's Hospital. They're discharging Nyla this morning. Stay there. I'm coming to you. We need to file preservation notices before anything conveniently disappears." Within an hour, Ava strode into Nyla's hospital room, her heels clicking purposefully on the linoleum. She carried a leather briefcase and the air of someone who never lost a fight she chose to take on. "How's she doing?" Ava asked, nodding toward Nyla, who was coloring quietly in bed. "Physically? The bites were shallow. Mentally?" Maya shook her head. "She keeps asking what she did wrong." "She did nothing wrong," Ava said firmly, pulling out her laptop. "And we're going to prove it. I've already drafted preservation notices for the department. They'll have to maintain all K-9 training logs, radio dispatches, body cam footage, everything." They spent the next hour going over details. Ava's questions were precise, methodical. She documented every bruise, every torn piece of clothing, every moment of the encounter. A television mounted in the corner suddenly caught their attention. Chief Earl Kessler was holding a press conference outside the police station. "Yesterday's incident was a regrettable misunderstanding," Kessler said, his face a mask of practiced concern. "Officer Branson has been placed on administrative leave with pay pending a full investigation. Our department takes any use of force involving minors very seriously." "Misunderstanding?" Maya's voice was tight. "He sicked a dog on my 7-year-old. "Notice he's not denying the attack happened," Ava observed. "He's just trying to control the narrative. Classic damage control." A knock at the door interrupted them. Sergeant Chu entered, her expression guarded. "Maya," she said quietly, "I need to warn you. Someone's been asking questions about your military file. They're digging." "Who?" "Can't say for sure, but the requests came from inside the department." Ava made a note. "Attempting to discredit a witness. Add it to the list." Maya helped Nyla pack her things, and they headed home. The house felt different somehow. Less safe, less private. She double-checked the locks, drew the curtains, and tried to restore some normalcy for Nyla's sake. They were eating dinner when the knock came. Through the peephole, Maya saw a woman in business casual holding a clipboard. The ID badge read, "Child Protective Services." Maya's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. "Nyla, honey, go to your room for a minute." She opened the door, standing tall in the frame. The CPS agent smiled professionally. "Ms. Ellison? I'm Sandra Wheeler from Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous tip about potential instability in the home. May I come in?" Maya smiled back, stepping aside. "Of course. Please, enter." She pulled out her phone and dialed Ava, putting it on speaker. "I hope you don't mind if my attorney joins us?" "Hello, Ms. Wheeler," Ava's voice came through clearly. "This is Ava Mercado. I'll be recording this interaction, as is my client's legal right. Please proceed with your inspection." The CPS agent's smile faltered slightly, but she began her walkthrough. The house was immaculate. Dishes done, floors swept, laundry folded. Nyla's room was bright and organized, her schoolwork displayed proudly on the walls. The refrigerator bore her latest artwork, careful crayon drawings of birds she'd seen on her walks home. "Everything appears to be in order," Wheeler said finally, unable to hide her embarrassment. "I apologize for any inconvenience." After she left, Ava was still on the line. "They're trying to discredit you, Maya, which means they're scared." Maya looked at Nyla's closed bedroom door, thinking of her daughter's drawings, her curious mind, her gentle heart. Then they just woke the wrong mother. The evening settled over Maya's living room like a heavy blanket, the warm glow of table lamps creating intimate pools of light. Maya sat in her favorite armchair, surrounded by allies who had gathered to help plan their next moves. Ava Mercado claimed the dining room chair she'd pulled over, her laptop open and legal papers spread across the coffee table. Pastor Greer's tall frame occupied the far end of the couch, his presence steady and reassuring. Sergeant Chu perched alertly on a kitchen stool she'd brought in, while Mrs. Patel sat primly on the edge of the sofa, still clutching her phone with its precious video evidence. "First things first," Ava said, tapping her pen against a legal pad. "We need to file the official complaint tomorrow morning. I've drafted it already, but I want to make sure we include every detail." She looked at Maya. "The more specific we are, the harder it is for them to wiggle out of this." Maya nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "What about the press? They've been calling non-stop." "We control the narrative," Ava replied firmly. "No individual interviews yet. We release one clear statement through my office, focusing on the facts. An unarmed 7-year-old girl, walking home on public land, attacked by a police K-9 without provocation. Let the video speak for itself." Pastor Greer leaned forward, his deep voice carrying years of community leadership. "I can host a meeting at the church tomorrow evening. Get the neighborhood involved, but keep it organized. No shouting, no violence, just concerned citizens demanding accountability." "The congregation mothers will come," Mrs. Patel added, her accent lending weight to her words. "They remember their own children walking that path. And I have more footage from my camera showing other kids using that shortcut. Years of them, peaceful as birds." Sergeant Chu cleared her throat. "There's something else you should know." She pulled out a folder from her messenger bag. "I did some digging into Branson's K-9 certification records. His credentials expired 3 months ago. He's been operating Thor without valid certification." The room went silent as the implications sank in. "That's a felony," Ava said, her eyes sharpening. "Using an uncertified K-9 is considered deadly force without proper training. The liability alone—" She started typing furiously. A soft knock at the front door made everyone tense. Maya rose to answer it, checking through the peephole first. Her shoulders relaxed slightly as she opened the door to reveal Councilwoman Ruth Hale, her silver hair neat despite the late hour. "I hope I'm not interrupting," Ruth said, stepping inside. "I heard there was a strategy meeting." "Councilwoman," Pastor Greer stood respectfully. "Your presence means a lot." Ruth settled into an offered chair, her movements deliberate. "This isn't my first rodeo with police overreach. I was younger than Nyla during the civil rights movement. Some things haven't changed as much as we'd hoped." "The public's already rallying," Mrs. Patel said, showing her phone screen. "Look at Twitter. Our Justice for Nyla is trending in our area. My granddaughter showed me how to check." Maya watched the growing activity on the hashtag, seeing neighbors, parents, and local activists sharing the story. The doorbell camera footage had been viewed thousands of times. "We need to move fast," Ava said, still typing. "I'm filing motions for evidence preservation first thing tomorrow. Body cam footage, radio logs, K-9 training records, internal emails, everything." "The department will fight it," Chu warned. "They always do." "Let them," Ava replied. "Every attempt to block us is another piece of evidence showing consciousness of guilt. Pastor Greer pulled out his own notebook. I'll start calling church members tonight. We can have people ready to attend the council meeting next week. Peaceful pressure from taxpayers tends to make politicians nervous. Speaking of which, Ruth added, I've been talking to other council members. There's support for an independent review of K-9 policies. This incident might be the catalyst we need for real reform. Mrs. Patel suddenly straightened. Look, she held up her phone again. Channel 5 is running the story. They're using my video. They all watched as the news clip played, showing Nyla's innocent walk home transformed into a moment of terror. The reporter's voice was appropriately outraged, questioning the use of a police dog against a child. Ava's phone buzzed, interrupting the moment. She grabbed it, frowning at the screen. Well, someone just tried to access the police server where the body cam footage is stored. Looks like an attempted data wipe. Her frown transformed into a knowing smirk. They're desperate. Can they delete it? Maya asked sharply. They can try, Ava replied. But I already have 3 backups. Plus, I filed emergency preservation orders electronically an hour ago. Tampering now would be destruction of evidence. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, their sound carrying through the quiet neighborhood. Maya walked to the window, pulling back the curtain slightly to look out at the darkened street. Police cruisers had been driving past regularly all day, a show of force meant to intimidate. Let them come, she said, her voice steady and determined. I'm done running. The room fell silent again, but this time it was different. Not the silence of fear, but of resolve. These people, gathered in her living room with their legal papers and community connections and righteous anger, represented something bigger than one incident. They were the machinery of justice, grinding slowly but inexorably toward truth. The morning brought a steady drizzle to Glenvale, turning the sky a muted gray. Maya stood at her kitchen window, watching news vans park along her normally quiet street. Their satellite dishes pointed skyward, like metal flowers seeking signals instead of sun. Inside, Neela munched on her cereal, her small legs swinging beneath the kitchen chair. Remember what we talked about? Maya asked, checking Nyla's new backpack. Bright purple this time, the pink one being held as evidence. Stay close to Ms. Rodriguez during recess, Nyla recited. And if anyone asks questions about what happened, say no comment, like on TV. Maya's heart squeezed. A 7-year-old shouldn't have to know phrases like no comment. She knelt beside her daughter's chair. That's right, baby. And remember, I did nothing wrong, Nyla finished, managing a small smile. The drive to school felt longer than usual. Maya noticed 2 patrol cars shadowing them, staying just far enough back to claim coincidence. She kept her movements deliberate, using her turn signals with precise timing, maintaining exactly the speed limit. Years of tactical driving had taught her to be unpredictable, but today she needed to be beyond reproach. Reporters waited at the school entrance, held back by the principal's stern presence. Maya parked in the drop-off zone, walked Nyla to the door with measured steps. Camera shutters clicked like insects. Mrs. Ellison, do you have a response to— Ms. Ellison, is it true that— Maya kept her face neutral, one hand on Nyla's shoulder, the other holding an umbrella over them both. The principal, Mrs. Chen, met them at the door. We've increased hall monitoring, she said quietly. And the school board approved her temporary transfer to Ms. Rodriguez's class. Fewer windows, more privacy. Maya nodded gratefully. Thank you. Across town, Ava Mercado strode into the federal courthouse, her heels clicking against marble floors. She carried a thick folder of documents, the civil rights lawsuit she'd spent all night perfecting. The complaint detailed every violation: excessive force, failure to train, deliberate indifference, pattern, and practice of discrimination. each allegation backed by exhibits, precedents, and the damning video evidence. The clerk stamped the filing while Ava's phone buzzed. City Council had just announced an emergency hearing for tomorrow morning. Perfect timing, she muttered, sending a quick text to Maya. In Chief Kessler's office, the blinds were drawn against the rain and prying eyes. He leaned back in his leather chair, regarding Officers Branson and Drummond with barely contained irritation. "Your initial statements need work," he said, sliding 2 folders across his desk. "Too many inconsistencies. Fix them." Branson shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, if we change our stories now—" "Not change," Kessler cut in smoothly. "Clarify. Add detail. Make them bulletproof." He stood, looming over his desk. "Unless you'd prefer to face this alone." Both officers grabbed the folders. The confrontation with Sergeant Chu came an hour later. She appeared in Kessler's doorway, holding a printed timeline of the incident. "The body cam footage gap isn't a technical glitch," she stated flatly. "Someone accessed the server at 2 a.m. that night." Kessler's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Careful, Dana. There's an opening in parking enforcement. Lots of fresh air. Walking your beat. Is that a threat, sir? That's career advice. Take it or leave it." Maya's phone started buzzing during her lunch break at the hospital. Notifications poured in, social media mentions, tags, direct messages. Post after post claiming she suffered from military PTSD episodes and was known for aggressive behavior. She forwarded everything to Ava, who had her IT team trace the sources within hours. The results made her laugh out loud. IP addresses registered to City Hall, the police department, and, most damning, Chief Kessler's personal office computer. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore," Ava told Maya over the phone. "This is exactly what we need. Proof of coordinated retaliation." The smear campaign escalated when Branson gave an anonymous interview to a local crime blog. The headline screamed, "Officer speaks out. Unstable mother charged K9 unit. Endangered child." Ava's response was swift and devastating. She released the full doorbell camera footage online, its crystal-clear 4K resolution leaving no room for interpretation. The video showed every second. Nyla's peaceful walk, Branson's aggressive approach, Thor's unprovoked attack, and Maya's controlled response. Within hours, it spread across social media platforms, news sites, and activist networks. Our justice for Nyla became a national trending topic. That evening, Maya tucked Nyla into bed, the muted TV in the living room still running coverage of their story. National news anchors debated police reform while showing clips of the video on endless loop. "Mommy," Nyla whispered as Maya smoothed her blanket, "people at school saw it. They said I'm famous now." Maya brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead. "No, baby, you're not famous. You're just the truth they can't ignore anymore." She kissed Nyla's forehead. "Now, the whole world knows." Outside, the rain had finally stopped. News vans remained parked along the street, their lights glowing in the darkness like earthbound stars. Maya stood at Nyla's window watching them. Let them watch back, she thought. Let them all see. The truth was out now, carried on waves of light and data to millions of screens. There would be no more hiding in shadows, no more twisted narratives. The whole world knew, and they were watching. The town hall's ancient heating system groaned as people packed into every available seat. Maya sat in the front row beside Pastor Greer, watching faces both familiar and strange file in. News cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking like mechanical eyes. The wood-paneled room, usually echoing with mundane city business, now hummed with barely contained energy. Councilwoman Ruth Hale arranged papers at the raised desk, her silver hair catching the fluorescent light. Next to her, other council members shifted uncomfortably, aware of the crowd's scrutiny. Chief Kessler stood near the exit, arms crossed, his usual political smile nowhere to be seen. Pastor Greer rose slowly to the podium, his Vietnam veteran's pin gleaming on his lapel. The room fell silent as he adjusted the microphone. "Let us pray," he began, his deep voice filling the space. "Lord, grant us wisdom to recognize injustice, courage to name it, and strength to correct it." He paused, opening his eyes to scan the crowd. What happened last week wasn't just about one child or one dog or one officer. It was about power. Who has it, who abuses it, and who suffers from that abuse? Maya noticed several council members squirm. Good, she thought. Let them squirm. "We're not here for vengeance," Pastor Greer continued. "We're here for accountability. When those trusted with authority abuse that trust, silence becomes compliance." He nodded to Ruth Hale. "Thank you." Councilwoman Hale approached the podium, carrying a large rolled map. Her movements were deliberate as she spread it across the display easel. "These are the original county GIS maps from 1987, she announced, her voice clear and firm. "They show something interesting about that strip of land behind the old warehouse." The projection screen lit up with a detailed survey overlay. Hale traced a highlighted path with her finger. "This area, where young Neela was walking, is not private property. It is a public utility easement established 35 years ago for water main access and designated for pedestrian use." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Maya watched Kessler pull out his phone, typing rapidly. "Furthermore," Hale continued, "this easement has been used as a footpath by residents for decades. The city's own maintenance crews use it regularly." She pulled out another document. "Here's their log of monthly inspections, showing consistent pedestrian access." Branson, sitting with his union representative, seemed to shrink in his chair. His face had gone pale. When Maya's turn came to speak, she stood slowly, smoothing her nurse's scrubs. She hadn't had time to change after her shift, but somehow that felt right, letting them see her as she was, a working mother. "My daughter weighs 52 pounds, she began, her voice steady but carrying to every corner. She was wearing a pink backpack with a unicorn keychain. She was walking home from school on a path she's taken hundreds of times." Maya paused, meeting Branson's eyes. "And she was treated like a threat. She's 7. The room erupted in applause. Someone in the back shouted, "Shame!" Maya held up her hand for quiet. "I'm not here to yell. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because my daughter asked me last night if the police dog would come back for her." Her voice caught slightly. "No child should have to ask that question." More applause, louder this time. Maya noticed Mrs. Patel wiping tears from behind her glasses. Sergeant Chu stepped forward next, carrying a thick folder. Her uniform was precisely pressed, her badge gleaming under the harsh lights. "I have here the K-9 unit certification records for the past 18 months, she said, laying them on the council's desk. "Officer Branson's certification expired 3 months ago. Department policy strictly prohibits deploying an uncertified K-9 unit." The union representative leaned over to whisper urgently in Branson's ear. Kessler had stopped typing and was staring at Chu with undisguised hatred. "Additionally," Chu continued, her voice professional but pointed, "there are 7 prior complaints about excessive K-9 force in Officer Branson's file. All were settled quietly. All involved minorities." The crowd's reaction was immediate and loud. Council members huddled together, whispering frantically. Reporters rushed to phone in updates. Ruth Hale called for order, tapping her gavel. "In light of this evidence, I move to suspend Officer Branson immediately pending a full investigation." The vote was quick and unanimous. Even those who usually sided with the police department couldn't ignore the public pressure. For a moment, Victory felt real. Maya watched Branson storm out, followed by his representative and a swarm of reporters. Pastor Greer squeezed her shoulder. "First step," he said quietly. Just the first step. The parking lot was dark when Maya left. The spring evening turned cool. She walked toward her car, keys ready, attention sharp, old habits dying hard. The crunch of gravel behind her made her turn, but there was only shadow. She reached her car, then stopped. Something wasn't right. The slight tilt of the frame, the way the light hit the wheel well. She circled around slowly. Her front tire lay flat, a clean slice visible in the rubber. Not a random puncture. This was a message, delivered with surgical precision. Maya stood very still, scanning the darkness. But whoever had left this warning was long gone. Dawn crept over Glenvale as Maya stood in her driveway, watching the tow truck operator work. Steam rose from her coffee mug, matching her steady breath in the cool morning air. The slashed tire looked worse in daylight. A clean, professional cut that spoke of practice and purpose. "Doesn't look like your average road damage," the operator said, cranking the winch. His name tag read Steve, and his eyes held the knowing look of someone who'd seen this before. "No," Maya agreed, taking another sip. "It's not." Her phone buzzed. Ava's name flashed on the screen, along with a link to a social media post that was rapidly gaining traction. Maya opened it, her expression unchanging as she watched a grainy clip showing her charging at Branson during the incident with Nyla. The footage was shaky, cropped tight, showing Maya moving aggressively toward the officer without context. It cut off just before showing her reaching for her terrified daughter. "They're getting desperate," Ava texted. "I'm having my tech team analyze the video now." Maya replied with a simple thumbs up, then dialed Sergeant Chu. "I saw it," Chu answered without preamble. "I'm already in the system checking server logs." Her voice dropped lower. "Something's not right here. There's an internal memo from yesterday morning. Mitigate public optics. Use footage variations. It's got Kessler's digital signature. Can you forward that?" "Not directly. But I'm documenting everything. Chain of custody." Chu paused. "They've also increased patrols in your neighborhood. 4 times the normal rotation." Maya watched as Steve finished securing her car to the flatbed. "Harassment by policy," she said quietly. "Exactly. And Maya, watch your back. This isn't just about Branson anymore." After hanging up, Maya called an Uber for work. As she waited, Ava's next text arrived with screenshots from her technical analysis. The charging video had been deliberately cropped from Mrs. Patel's doorbell camera footage, slowed down in specific sections to appear more threatening, then artificially degraded to hide the manipulation. "They're not even good at covering their tracks," Ava wrote. "I'm filing an emergency injunction right now to preserve all department communications. They're panicking, and panicked people make mistakes." The morning sun climbed higher as Maya's Uber arrived. Her phone buzzed again, a news alert showing Chief Kessler at an impromptu press conference outside the police station. "These allegations of evidence tampering are completely unfounded," he was saying, his practiced smile firmly in place. "Our department maintains the highest standards of transparency and accountability. Any suggestion otherwise is simply an attempt to inflame public sentiment." Maya watched him lie with the ease of long practice. Behind him, uniformed officers stood at attention, a wall of blue solidarity. But she noticed Drummond shifting uncomfortably at the edge of the frame, his eyes downcast. At the hospital, Maya focused on her patients, while her phone accumulated updates. Ava's injunction had been granted. The department was now legally required to preserve all communications related to the incident. Mrs. Patel had given 3 interviews defending the authenticity of her original footage. Pastor Greer was organizing another community meeting. During her lunch break, She received an encrypted message from Chu. Meeting D now. Something's breaking. 20 minutes later, Chu sent another message. Office supply closet. 3rd floor. Recorded everything. The video clip that followed showed Drummond, pale and fidgeting, speaking in hushed tones. Chief pulled me aside right after. His voice wavered. Said we needed to protect the department's image. Told me to delete the first minute of footage. Said it was standard procedure for buffer issues. And you did it? Chu's voice, professional and steady. Yeah, but I saved a copy first. I didn't feel right about it. Drummond ran a hand through his hair. He said it was just procedure. But the way he said it, like a threat. Maya forwarded the clip to Ava, adding only, "Leverage?" "Gold," Ava replied. "Meeting at my office after your shift. Bring coffee. Strong coffee." The rest of Maya's shift passed in a blur of patience and procedures. By the time she arrived at Ava's downtown office, the sun was setting, painting the windows orange and gold. They sat surrounded by papers, screens, and empty coffee cups. "Look at this timeline," Ava said, spreading out a detailed chart. "Every move they've made has only dug them deeper. The slashed tire, documented harassment, the doctored video, proof of manipulation, Drummond's confession, conspiracy and obstruction." Maya traced the events with her finger. "They're burying themselves." "With every shovel of dirt," Ava agreed, highlighting another document. "And the beauty is, we don't have to do anything except document it. They're so focused on covering up the original incident, they're committing whole new violations." "Pride," Maya said softly. "It's always pride." "Pride and power," Ava corrected. "They can't accept that they're not untouchable anymore." She gestured at her phone, still downloading police server logs. Every delete, every edit, every cover-up. It all leaves traces. And now, we have court orders to preserve everything. Outside, distant sirens wailed, another patrol car making another pass. Maya barely noticed any more. She was focused on the evidence mounting before her, each piece fitting together like a puzzle revealing the rot beneath the badge. The afternoon sun hung low as Maya pulled away from Nyla's school, checking her mirrors out of habit. Her daughter sat in the back seat, humming softly while drawing in her notebook, a new routine that helped calm her nerves after the incident. "What are you drawing today, baby?" Maya asked, keeping her voice light despite the tension in her shoulders. "The birds I saw at recess. Mrs. Thompson helped me look them up in the library." Nyla held up her sketch. "See? This one's a cardinal." Maya smiled at her through the rearview mirror, but the expression froze as red and blue lights suddenly flashed behind them. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. "It's okay, Neela. Stay calm." Maya pulled over smoothly, following every regulation perfectly. She'd already been checking her signals, her speed, everything by the book. Through her side mirror, she watched Officer Branson emerge from the patrol car, that familiar swagger in his step. Her jaw clenched. He wasn't supposed to be on active duty. "License and registration," Branson drawled, leaning into her window with calculated intimidation. His breath smelled of coffee and satisfaction. "Officer Branson," Maya acknowledged coldly, hands visible as she reached for her documents. "I thought you were on administrative leave." "Reinstated for paperwork," he said, smirking. "Funny how things work out. You failed to signal back there." "No, she didn't." Nyla's small voice came from the back seat. "I was watching the lights blink. Mommy always signals." Branson's eyes flickered to Nyla, then back to Maya. "Children don't always see everything, do they?" His tone carried a threat. Maya kept her breathing steady, Delta Force training kicking in. "Stay calm. Document everything." She pressed the record button on her phone, lying face up on the passenger seat. "Is there a problem here?" A new voice cut through the tension. Sergeant Chu strode up from her just-arrived vehicle, her face tight with controlled anger. "Routine traffic stop, Sergeant," Branson said, straightening up. "Failure to signal." "I was behind them for 6 blocks," Chu interrupted. "Every signal was proper. Your dash cam will confirm that, won't it?" Branson's smugness faltered. "I need to review the footage." "Yes, you do," Chu said sharply. "And you need to explain why you're conducting traffic stops when you're supposed to be on desk duty. Return to the station. Now." Maya watched the power play silently, keeping one eye on Nyla through the mirror. Her daughter had stopped drawing, her small hands clutching her notebook tightly. After Branson reluctantly departed, Chu leaned down to Maya's window. "This harassment stops today. I'm filing a formal complaint about this incident." "Thank you, Dana," Maya said quietly. "But we both know it won't stop." Later that night, after tucking Neela into bed, Maya sat at her kitchen table reviewing security footage from the new cameras Ava had insisted she install. Movement on the front porch caught her attention. A figure in dark clothes, trying to stay in the shadows. The camera's infrared caught his face clearly. Officer Martinez, off duty, skulking around her home. Maya's fingers flew over her phone, sending the footage to both Ava and Chu. Ava called immediately. "This is beyond harassment," Ava said, her voice tight with controlled rage. "I'm filing for an emergency protection order first thing tomorrow. We have clear evidence of stalking now." "They're escalating," Maya observed, keeping her voice low to not wake Nyla. "Because they're losing control of the narrative. The public's turning against them, the evidence is mounting, and—" Ava paused as Maya's doorbell camera pinged another alert. "Is someone else there?" Maya switched to the live feed. 2 more officers, claiming to be following up on a noise complaint. "I'm calling Chu," Ava said. "Don't open the door. Record everything." The officers eventually left, but the damage was done. Neela appeared in the kitchen doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "I heard voices," she said softly. "Are they back again?" Maya opened her arms, and Nyla ran into them. She could feel her daughter trembling slightly. "Mommy, are they ever going to stop?" Maya held her close, running a hand over her hair. "When they learn who they're dealing with," she promised, steel in her voice. After getting Neela back to sleep, Maya pulled out her notebook, the same type she'd used for mission planning in Delta Force. She began writing methodically. Times, locations, witness names, patterns of harassment. Each incident carefully documented, each officer involved noted. The soldier in her was awake again, analyzing threats, planning countermoves. She'd fought in war zones, trained elite units, faced down bigger threats than corrupt small-town cops. These men thought intimidation was power. They'd never faced someone who understood true strength, the kind that came from protecting what mattered most. Her pen moved steadily across the page, mapping out their patterns of harassment, their weak points, their attempts at covering their tracks. Every detail could matter. Every incident built their case stronger. She'd learned long ago that the most important battles were won through preparation, through knowing your opponent better than they knew themselves. A text from Chu lit up her phone. "Security detail in place. Unmarked car across the street. We've got your 6. Maya nodded to herself, adding another note to her growing list. They thought they were wearing her down. Instead, they were giving her ammunition. The pre-dawn darkness pressed against Maya's windows, broken only by the sudden flash of red and blue lights. Her eyes snapped open instantly. Combat reflexes never truly fade. The pounding at her front door echoed through the house like gunfire. "Police! Open up! Compliance check!" Maya was already moving, muscle memory from years of tactical response. She grabbed her phone, hitting record as she pulled on a robe. Her mind raced through possibilities. No warrant needed for compliance checks. But the timing wasn't random. "Mommy," Nyla's frightened voice came from her doorway. "It's okay, baby. Remember what we practiced? Go to your safe spot and call Mrs. Patel." Maya kept her voice steady, watching Nyla nod and slip back into her room. They'd drilled this, knowing this day might come. The pounding continued. Maya moved deliberately to the door, phone recording everything. "I'm opening the door. I am unarmed and compliant." The door burst open before she could reach it. 4 officers swarmed in, tactical gear, weapons drawn. Maya recognized Drummond among them, his face a mask of false authority. "Hands where we can see them!" The lead officer shouted unnecessarily. Her hands were already raised. "My 7-year-old daughter is in her room," Maya said clearly for the recording. "I do not consent to this search. I want my lawyer present." They ignored her, spreading through the house with practiced efficiency. Maya heard Nyla cry out as they entered her room. "Stay calm, baby," Maya called, fighting to keep her voice level. "Everything's going to be okay." One officer stayed with Maya while the others conducted their search. She watched them overturn cushions, dump drawers, scatter papers. Their movements were too practiced, too focused on specific areas. This wasn't a search. It was a performance. "Well, well," came Drummond's voice from the living room. He emerged holding an evidence bag containing a single 9mm round. "Look what we found under your couch cushion." Maya's laugh was cold. "That's planted, and you know it. I haven't owned ammunition since leaving service. Check the round. It'll match department inventory." "Threatening an officer now?" Drummond's partner stepped forward, cuffs ready. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." Maya complied, her military training warring with maternal instinct as she heard Neela sobbing. "My daughter needs to stay with Pastor Greer or Mrs. Patel. They're her approved guardians." "CPS has been notified," Drummond said with false regret. "Can't leave her with unofficial guardians. Policy, you understand?" The cuffs closed around her wrists with a decisive click. Maya kept her face neutral, even as rage burned in her chest. They'd planned this well, separating her from Nyla, trying to break them both. "Nyla!" she called as they led her out. "Remember what I taught you. Be brave, baby. I'll see you soon." The neighbors were emerging onto their porches, phones recording. Maya caught glimpses of Mrs. Patel already on her phone, presumably calling Ava. Good. The community network they'd built was activating. At the station, they processed her with deliberate slowness. Through the booking room window she saw Branson watching, that same smirk playing on his face. He thought he'd won. Beside him, Sergeant Chu stood with her arms crossed, face pale with contained fury. Maya sat silent through processing, giving only necessary responses. Her mind worked like it had in combat, assessing threats, identifying weaknesses, planning counter-moves. They'd made a mistake with this play. Too obvious, too desperate. The holding cell was cold, meant to be uncomfortable. Maya sat on the metal bench, closed her eyes, and focused on her breathing. Delta Force training had taught her patience. Wait for the target to expose himself. Watch for the mistake. Strike only when victory is certain. She thought of Nyla, probably terrified in some CPS office. But they'd prepared for this too. Neela knew to stay calm, to remember that Mommy would come for her, to trust that their friends would help. The thought of her daughter's courage made Maya's jaw clench. Hours passed. Maya heard the station coming alive, shift changes, voices rising and falling. She mapped the patterns, noted the rhythms. Every detail could matter later. Maya. Ava's voice came from the cell door. The attorney looked ready for war, her usual polish hardened into armor. "I've filed for an emergency hearing. The bullet's serial number matches a box from their armory. They got sloppy." Maya nodded, unsurprised. "They're desperate. The judge is furious about the CPS play. Ava continued. Pastor Greer is with Nyla now. I got that reversed within an hour. She's scared but holding up. Says to tell you she's being brave. Something in Maya's chest tightened, then released. Her daughter's strength continued to amaze her. We'll prove it, Ava promised, her hand gripping the cell bars. All of it. The planted evidence, the harassment, the civil rights violations. They just handed us everything we need. Maya's smile was faint but genuine. We already have. She'd seen it in Branson's smirk, in Drummond's stiff movements, in the excessive force of their raid. Fear made men sloppy. Pride made them blind. And these men were very, very afraid. The cell door clanged shut as Ava left to prepare for the hearing. Maya resumed her patient stillness, counting breaths like heartbeats. In combat, the worst mistake was acting too soon, striking before the enemy fully exposed their weakness. She could wait. The truth would do its work. Dawn broke over Glenvale's empty streets, painting the small cafe's parking lot in shades of gray and gold. Sergeant Dana Chu sat in her personal vehicle, off-duty, watching the entrance for any signs of surveillance. Her fingers drummed nervously on a thick manila envelope in her lap. Ava Mercado's silver sedan pulled in precisely at 6 a.m., parking 2 spaces away, as arranged. The attorney stepped out, business casual but combat-ready in her own way, carrying a coffee cup that could excuse this early meeting to any watching eyes. Chu slid into Ava's passenger seat, the envelope tight against her chest. You need to see this, she said without preamble. But first, how's Maya holding up? Like a soldier, Ava replied, her voice low. They thought the holding cell would break her. Instead, she's been mapping guard rotations and calculating shift patterns. Chu almost smiled. Sounds like Maya. Here's why I called. She opened the envelope, removing a memo written on department letterhead. This came down 3 weeks ago, right before the incident with Nyla. Ava's eyes narrowed as she read. The memo, signed by Chief Kessler, outlined new aggressive compliance measures for trespass enforcement. But it was the handwritten notes in the margins that made her inhale sharply. Use K9 to establish compliance, she read aloud. Maintain presence in problem areas until residents learn. Another note, partially crossed out, focus on repeat offenders and their The rest was scratched through, but the implication was clear. He means families, Chu said flatly. He's targeting kids to control parents. The path Nyla took? It's been a shortcut for decades, but certain residents started complaining about those people using it. And Kessler saw an opportunity, Ava finished. She carefully photographed each page with her phone. This proves the K9 deployment wasn't a mistake or overreaction. It was policy. There's more. Chu pulled out a spreadsheet. Patrol assignments changed right after this memo. Branson and Drummond were specifically tasked to that area, despite 3 prior excessive force complaints. And look at the times. Right after school lets out, Ava noted, her jaw tightening. They were waiting for a child to make an example of. They just didn't expect that child's mother to be Delta Force, Chu added, or for the community to rally like this. As if on cue, Ava's phone buzzed. A text from Pastor Greer. Rally starting at 9 a.m., veterans groups joining. Media confirmed. The Veterans Networks activated overnight, Ava explained. Once Maya's service record leaked, which I suspect was your doing. Chu's expression remained carefully neutral. Information wants to be free. Outside the car, early morning traffic was picking up. Commuters headed to work, kids to school, the city awakening to another day of simmering tension. I need to get this to the judge, Ava said, securing the documents. The emergency hearing's at 10. This memo proves the bullet was planted. They're retaliating against a witness to their own policy violations. Be careful, Chu warned. Kessler's got friends in the prosecutor's office. They'll try to bury this. Let them try. Ava's smile was sharp. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. By 9 a.m., the courthouse steps were packed. Pastor Greer's deep voice led prayers for justice, while Ruth Hale worked the crowd, her counsel position lending legitimacy to the gathering. Veterans in pressed uniforms stood at attention, their presence a silent rebuke to those who would abuse authority. Inside the holding area, Maya could hear the chants through thick walls. "Free Maya! Truth and justice!" She sat in perfect stillness, conserving energy, waiting. The emergency hearing moved quickly. Ava presented the memo, highlighting the pattern of targeted harassment. The judge, a former JAG officer herself, read through the documents with growing anger. "This arrest appears retaliatory," she declared. "The evidence is suspicious at best, manufactured at worst. Ms. Ellison will be released pending investigation. Furthermore, I'm referring this entire matter to the State Attorney General's office." Maya walked out of the courthouse at 11:23 a.m., free and upright. Reporters surged forward, microphones thrust toward her face. Questions overlapped. "Ms. Ellison, how do you respond to these charges? What message do you have for Chief Kessler? Are you planning to sue the department?" Maya paused, her bearing military straight. The crowd hushed, waiting. When she spoke, her voice carried without shouting. "Truth doesn't need volume. Just daylight." The phrase rippled through the crowd, cameras flashing. But Maya was already moving, Ava beside her, through the parted sea of supporters toward Mrs. Patel's waiting car. Home smelled of cleaning supplies. The community had rallied there too, erasing every trace of the police raid. But Maya noticed nothing beyond Nyla, who launched herself from the couch with a cry. "Mommy!" Maya caught her daughter, held her close, breathed in the scent of her hair. They stood like that for a long moment, survivor and warrior, parent and child, their strength flowing between them. "I knew you'd come back," Nyla whispered. Maya pulled back just enough to meet her daughter's eyes. "Always," she said softly, then, even quieter, "It's almost over." The police garage echoed with the hollow sound of footsteps against concrete. Officer Kyle Drummond paced between the parked cruisers, checking his watch for the third time. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across his worried face. A car door slammed somewhere in the structure. Drummond jumped, then tried to steady himself. His hands were shaking. The weight of his earlier confession to Sergeant Chu pressed down on him like a physical burden. Heavy footsteps approached. Officer Rick Branson emerged from between two patrol vehicles, his K-9 handler jacket zipped tight despite the garage's warmth. His face was thunderous. "The hell were you thinking?" Branson's voice bounced off the concrete walls. "Telling Chu about the footage? Are you trying to sink us all?" Drummond backed up a step, bumping into a cruiser's side mirror. I couldn't keep lying, Rick. That little girl was trespassing," Branson cut in, jabbing a finger toward Drummond's chest. "And her mother's unstable. We did our jobs." "Did we?" Drummond's voice cracked. "Because I remember you saying, 'It's just a kid,' right before you let Thor loose. I remember." Branson grabbed Drummond's collar, pushing him against the cruiser. "You remember what we tell you to remember. You understand? This isn't just about us anymore." In the shadows behind a support pillar, Sergeant Chu stood motionless, her phone recording every word. She'd anticipated this confrontation after Drummond's confession, known Branson would try to strong-arm him into silence. "I can't sleep," Drummond was saying, his voice small. "Every time I close my eyes, I hear that little girl screaming. And for what? Because she took a shortcut home? For what?" Branson's laugh was ugly. "For control, you idiot. For showing them who's in charge. Kessler gets it. Why do you think he backed us up? Chu's fingers tightened on her phone. This was what they needed. Kessler told us to make it stick, Branson continued, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. The kid, the mom, both. Make an example. Show everyone what happens when they challenge us. But the evidence! Evidence? Branson sneered. That bullet we planted will keep Mommy locked up long enough to break her. CPS will find something wrong with the home situation. There's always something if you look hard enough. A car alarm chirped somewhere above them. Branson's head snapped around, suddenly aware they might not be alone. He released Drummond's collar with a shove. Fix your statement, he ordered, or the next time Thor gets loose, it might be near your place. Accidents happen. Branson's footsteps receded, leaving Drummond slumped against the cruiser. Chu waited until the elevator doors closed before emerging from her hiding spot. Officer Drummond. He startled, then saw who it was. His shoulders sagged with something like relief. You got all that? He asked quietly. Chu nodded, stopping the recording. Every word. You did good, Kyle. She sent the file immediately, encrypted, to both Maya's and Ava's phones. The timestamp would be critical, proving it wasn't doctored or staged. Across town, in Ava Mercado's office, 2 phones buzzed simultaneously. Maya leaned forward as Ava played the recording, their faces illuminated by the desk lamp's warm glow. Make it stick. The kid? The mom? Both. Branson's voice filled the quiet room. Maya's expression remained carefully neutral, but her hands had curled into fists. This is it, Ava said, already pulling up forms on her computer. Conspiracy, obstruction, civil rights violations, and that's just the start. The threat at the end gives us witness intimidation, too. How fast can you file it? I'll have it on the judge's desk for tomorrow morning's hearing. Ava's fingers flew across the keyboard. With the bullet evidence and this recording, we can prove systematic harassment and corruption. The whole department will have to answer for this. Maya stood, pacing the office. They went after my daughter, she said quietly. Used her to try to break me. Used the system meant to protect children to threaten her. They'll pay for that, Ava promised, her tone hard. Every single one of them. An hour later, Maya sat beside Nyla's bed, watching her daughter's peaceful sleep. The recording played softly from her phone again. Make it stick. Branson's words seemed to hang in the dim room. Maya reached out to smooth Nyla's hair, remembering her daughter's screams that first day, the terror in her eyes when the police burst in this morning. No, she whispered, her voice carrying all the quiet fury of a mother protecting her child. I'll make it right. The nightlight cast soft shadows on Nyla's drawings taped to the wall. Her maps, her birds, her world made small and safe through a child's eyes. Maya sat in the gentle darkness, guardian and protector, while somewhere across town, Ava's evidence filing worked its way through the system, ticking like a countdown toward justice. The courthouse buzzed with anticipation. Every wooden bench in the gallery creaked under the weight of bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder. Reporters clutched notebooks, their pens hovering. Community leaders sat straight-backed in the front row, Pastor Greer's calm presence anchoring them. Along the back wall, a row of veterans stood at parade rest, their presence a silent statement of support for one of their own. Maya sat beside Ava at the plaintiff's table, her posture military precise. She wore her old service dress uniform, ribbons and medals catching the fluorescent light. Nyla, in a neat blue dress, held her mother's hand and watched the room with wide eyes. Across the aisle, Chief Kessler's expensive suit couldn't hide his sweating. Branson kept adjusting his collar, while Drummond stared at his hands, shoulders hunched. Their attorney shuffled papers without reading them. Judge Martinez entered, her robes flowing as she took her seat. The bailiff's all rise barely registered over the rustle of bodies standing. Given the severity of the new evidence, Judge Martinez began, "We'll hear the plaintiff's full presentation first." Ava rose smoothly, tablet in hand. The courtroom screen lit up with Mrs. Patel's doorbell camera footage. The crystal-clear 4K video showed Neela walking calmly, then Branson's aggressive approach. When Thor lunged, several people in the gallery gasped. Maya's hand tightened around Nyla's. "The timestamp proves Nyla was walking home at 3:45 p.m., Ava said. "Now, let's look at the county GIS maps." The screen split to show official survey documents. A red line traced the utility easement, exactly where Neela had walked. "This path has been a public right-of-way for 40 years, Ava continued. Officer Branson's claim of trespassing was fabricated from the start. She clicked forward. Thor's expired K-9 certification filled the screen, followed by training logs showing missed recertification dates. Officer Branson knowingly deployed an uncertified K-9 unit against a child. Ava's voice carried clear outrage. But it gets worse. The next slide showed Sergeant Chu's whistleblower memo, Chief Kessler's signature bold at the bottom, his handwritten note about using the dog to establish compliance, damning in blue ink. Branson's attorney stood. "Objection! That memo could be—" "Could be what?" Ava cut in. "Fabricated? Then you'll love this next bit." She played the garage recording. Branson's voice filled the courtroom. "Kessler told us to make it stick. The kid, the mom, both." Drummond made a small, choking sound. Branson's face went red. Judge Martinez leaned forward. "Sergeant Chu, please approach." Chu walked to the witness stand, swore in, and confirmed recording the conversation. Her testimony was precise, professional, and devastating. "I witnessed Officer Branson threaten Officer Drummond," she said. He admitted to planting evidence and following Chief Kessler's orders to target the Ellison family. Drummond suddenly stood, tears streaming down his face. "It's true," he blurted. "All of it. We were told to make examples, to use fear. I'm so sorry." His attorney tried to silence him, but Drummond shook his head. "No more lies. That little girl did nothing wrong. We did. We all did." The gallery erupted in whispers. Judge Martinez banged her gavel once, restoring order. "Mr. Drummond," she said quietly, "are you prepared to make that statement under oath?" "Yes, Your Honor." His voice shook, but held firm. For the next 20 minutes, Drummond detailed everything: the targeting of minority neighborhoods, the pressure from Kessler, the systematic abuse of power. Branson's face grew darker with each revelation. Chief Kessler sat perfectly still, but his collar had grown dark with sweat. Judge Martinez reviewed the evidence in silence. The gallery held its collective breath. When she looked up, her eyes blazed with controlled fury. "In 30 years on this bench," she began, "I have never seen such a calculated abuse of authority. This department weaponized fear against a child, a 7-year-old girl walking home from school." She turned to face the defendants. "You betrayed your badges, your oaths, and this community's trust. Worse, you tried to destroy a family that dared to stand up to you." The judge nodded to the bailiff. "Officers Branson and Drummond are remanded into custody for perjury and evidence tampering. Chief Kessler will surrender his badge pending a full investigation." The bailiff stepped forward with handcuffs. The gallery gasped as steel clicked around Branson's wrists. Then someone started clapping. The applause spread like wildfire. Drummond accepted the cuffs quietly, still crying. Branson struggled until a second bailiff stepped in. Kessler stood woodenly as his badge was taken. Maya finally relaxed her ramrod posture. Neela squeezed her hand and whispered, "Did we win, Mommy?" "Yes, baby," Maya answered softly. "The truth won." They stood to leave, but the gallery was already on its feet. Pastor Greer led the way, creating a path through the crowd. The veterans saluted as Maya passed. Outside the courthouse, supporters lined the steps. Someone started chanting, "Ellison! Ellison!" Maya lifted Nyla onto her hip, holding her close as they descended the steps. Cameras flashed. Reporters called questions, but all Maya heard was her daughter's heartbeat against her chest. Steady, safe, and finally free from fear. The chanting grew louder, echoing off the courthouse columns. "Ellison! Ellison!" The city council chamber hummed with anticipation. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished wood floors. Every seat was filled, with people standing along the walls and spilling into the hallway outside. Maya sat in the front row beside Ava, both women dressed in crisp business suits. Pastor Greer and Mrs. Patel flanked them, along with a dozen other community members who'd stood by them through everything. Neela wasn't present. She was at school, where she belonged, safe and ordinary again. Councilwoman Ruth Hale stood at the podium, her silver hair gleaming under the lights. She adjusted her reading glasses and tapped the microphone. "This special session of the Glenvale City Council will come to order," she announced. Her voice carried authority earned through decades of public service. "Today we vote on Ordinance 2023-47, establishing the Civilian Oversight Board and comprehensive K-9 unit reforms." She lifted a thick document. This ordinance was crafted with input from law enforcement experts, civil rights attorneys, and most importantly, our community members. It requires civilian review of all use-of-force incidents, mandatory body camera compliance, and complete restructuring of our K-9 program under external certification. The chamber was silent as Ruth continued. "We've seen what happens when power operates without accountability. A child was attacked. A mother was targeted. A community's trust was shattered." She paused, looking directly at Maya. "But we've also seen what happens when people stand together for justice." The council members listened as Ruth detailed the ordinance's provisions: quarterly public hearings, independent investigators, new training protocols, a complete ban on K-9 deployment against minors. "The motion is on the floor," Ruth declared. "Council members, your votes." One by one, they voted. Some enthusiastically, others more reluctantly. But the result was clear, 11-1 in favor. The gallery erupted in applause. Maya remained still, her expression controlled, but her eyes shone. Ruth raised her hand for quiet. "There's more. The city has agreed to settle the civil rights lawsuit filed by Maya Ellison. The terms include a 7-figure payment and, more importantly, a binding consent decree." Ava stood, holding up the official settlement document. "The decree mandates implementation of all reforms within 6 months, with federal oversight. It also includes provisions for community education programs and legal aid funding." Ruth nodded. "And regarding K-9 Officer Thor," she gestured to Sergeant Chu, who stepped forward. "Thor will be retired immediately to the Blue Ridge K-9 Sanctuary," Chu announced. "He'll live out his days in peace, free from the misuse that made him a weapon instead of a protector." Maya's expression softened slightly at this news. She understood Thor had been a tool, not the villain. "The settlement money will establish the Neela Center," Ava continued, "providing after-school programs and safe walking routes for all our children. Because this was never about punishment. It was about prevention." Ruth returned to the podium. "Ms. Ellison, would you like to address the council?" Maya rose slowly, her posture straight but not stiff. She walked to the podium with measured steps, her presence commanding attention without demanding it. "Thank you, Councilwoman Hale," she began. "And thank you to everyone in this room and beyond who turned fear into action." Her voice carried clearly, trained by years of giving military briefings. When my daughter was attacked, I could have responded with rage. Many expected me to. But what this community showed me was something more powerful: the strength of united purpose. She gestured to the gathered faces. You didn't just share our outrage. You channeled it. You didn't just demand justice. You worked for it. Every person who attended a meeting, who shared their story, who kept their porch lights on for our children, you proved that change doesn't come from anger. It comes from action. Pastor Greer nodded slowly, pride evident in his expression. Mrs. Patel wiped away tears. This ordinance, this settlement, they're not an ending, Maya continued. They're a beginning. We have to stay vigilant, stay involved, stay committed to making this community what it should be. A place where every child can walk home without fear. The chamber erupted in applause again, but Maya raised her hand. One more thing. To the officers who still believe in their oath to protect and serve. She looked directly at Chu. Thank you for choosing right over easy. That's what real courage looks like. As the session concluded, people began filing out into the late afternoon sun. Maya and Chu found themselves alone for a moment on the courthouse steps. The sky was painted in deep oranges and purples, a beautiful sunset, marking the end of a long journey. Chu extended her hand. Maya took it, their handshake firm and professional. Soldier to soldier. You kept your oath, Maya said quietly. Chu's expression was solemn but satisfied. So did you. Morning light painted Glenvale's streets in soft gold. Birds darted between newly leafed trees, their songs mixing with the distant sounds of school buses and morning traffic. The air carried the fresh scent of cut grass and early spring flowers. Maya stood in front of her mirror, adjusting her blazer. She'd traded her ER scrubs for business casual wear that suited her new role as a trauma counselor at the Veterans Center. The position let her use both her medical training and military experience to help others heal. It felt right. "Nyla, breakfast's ready," she called upstairs. Feet thundered down the stairs as Nyla appeared, wearing her favorite yellow dress and a new backpack covered in hand-drawn birds. Her smile was bright and unguarded, the way a child's smile should be. "Mom, did you see? Mrs. Patel's roses are blooming." Nyla pointed through the kitchen window, where their neighbor was already out tending her garden. The older woman waved, her doorbell camera still faithfully monitoring the street, though for happier moments now. Maya set out plates of eggs and toast. "Eat up, sweetheart. Big day today." They walked hand in hand down their street toward what used to be the shortcut. The morning sun caught the new metal sign that marked the entrance. Nyla's Pathway Easement, walk home safe. The once narrow dirt path had been transformed into a proper walkway, lined with solar-powered lamps and newly planted cherry trees. Neighbors emerged from their homes to join them. Mrs. Patel brought her famous lemon cookies. Other families arrived with their children, all dressed for the opening ceremony. The atmosphere was festive, celebratory. Pastor Greer stood near the new archway entrance, his pressed suit making him look official despite his warm smile. Ruth Hale chatted with a group of council members, her silver hair catching the sunlight. Even Sergeant Chu had come, now wearing captain's bars. Her promotion, a testament to the department's ongoing reforms. Ava arrived last, carrying a stack of papers. "Hot off the press," she announced, handing Maya a copy of the local newspaper. The headline read, "Community celebrates victory. Nyla's pathway opens today." "Look at that," Maya said softly to Nyla. "You're famous." "Not famous, Mom," Nyla corrected with 7-year-old wisdom. "Just right." The crowd gathered as Pastor Greer stepped forward to begin the ceremony. His deep voice carried across the morning air. "We gather today not just to open a pathway, but to celebrate a journey, he began. This ground beneath our feet has always been public land, meant for all to share. But it took the courage of a child and the determination of a community to make that truth visible. He gestured to the new lighting fixtures, the emergency call boxes, the clearly marked signs. These improvements aren't just about safety, though safety matters deeply. They're about claiming our right to move freely, to walk without fear, to know that justice isn't just a word in books. Ruth Hale stepped forward with the ceremonial scissors, their handles painted in bright colors by local school children. "Would Nyla like to help me cut the ribbon?" she asked. Nyla looked up at Maya, who nodded encouragingly. Together, Ruth and Neela approached the red ribbon stretched across the pathway's entrance. The crowd counted down. 3, 2, 1. The scissors snipped cleanly through the ribbon. Applause erupted, along with cheers and a few happy tears. Someone started singing "This Little Light of Mine," and others joined in. Neela broke away from the crowd, running ahead along the smooth new pathway. Her laughter echoed back, pure and uninhibited. Maya watched her daughter skip and twirl, remembering how different things had been just months ago. The knot that had lived in her chest for so long finally began to unwind completely. Mrs. Patel appeared at Maya's side, offering a cookie. "She's herself again," the older woman observed. "That's the real victory." "It is," Maya agreed, "though the other victories matter too." They watched as other children joined Nyla, their backpacks bouncing as they explored the pathway. Parents followed more slowly, admiring the new benches and the artistic fence panels designed by local students. Ava and Chu stood together, an unlikely but strong friendship forged through their fight for justice. "The consent decree compliance report came back perfect," Ava mentioned. "Every requirement met or exceeded. The new training protocols are actually working," Chu added. "Officers are learning de-escalation first. It's changing the whole culture." Overhead, streetlight banners fluttered in the morning breeze, their message clear against the blue sky. Justice is a journey, but it gets there. Maya moved to where Nyla had stopped to examine a newly planted cherry tree. She knelt beside her daughter, adjusting the slightly crooked backpack strap with gentle hands. The morning sun warmed their faces, and somewhere nearby, a cardinal called to its mate. "Ready to walk home, baby?" Maya asked softly. Nyla's eyes sparkled as she looked at her mother, all traces of past fear gone. "Always," she answered, taking Maya's hand. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.